I lost my father when I was 8. We never spoke about it. He died of an illness, so he was going to die. We never spoke about death coming. I didn't even go to the funeral. The school didn't really talk about it. There was just no acknowledgement to talk about it. I think you were just there seen to not be heard sort of mentality. I just want to know I've done him proud. I just want everybody to be able to say, well, there's those clients and families who say we did them proud. I've always enjoyed a job, but this one has a real purpose and there's real change coming. So why wouldn't you want to be part of that? And why wouldn't you want to make a difference in whatever way you can?
Hello and welcome to the podcast, Death, a Changing Industry. Today with a great pleasure to welcome the Central England Cooperative Head of Funerals, Lee Bevan. Lee, great to sit down with you. It's been a while coming, this conversation, and to learn about you as an individual and the work that you do at Central England Co-op. So your role then, Head of Funerals, day to day, what do you do? What is your role?
Well, I suppose from the practicality point of view of it all, I suppose there's an estate of 170 funeral homes, there's a crematorium, masonry business, floral business, funeral plan business, coffin factory. So there's the element of running a large scale operation. But the bit that I like the most is it's the leading and the supporting of the teams. So actually being present for the teams. There's 1,000 colleagues out there delivering for our clients and our families. 20,000 families to interact with our clients. So that's the most important bit of the role. That's the bit that it triggers me the most. So being as close to that as you can be is important to me. But then equally, running all aspects of the business. I think we're quite unique because we can offer every aspect of a funeral as well, and we take that really seriously. It's a real privilege for us to be able to offer everything that a client may need at a point in time.
And when you say that, to go further then, so you're suggesting you don't need any third parties to assist in the work that you do, from making the coffin through to the crematorium. Is that what you mean by that?
Yeah, I think with third parties is interesting because we're led by the client, so the client can choose anything they want. So there's no, you come to us and this is the only brochure or this is the only thing we're going to present and show to you. The first bit the arrangers do is have the great conversation, the quality conversation with the person, and give them all the choice they want. Some of those people are super well informed and they know exactly what they want and how they want it and who they want it from. Some of those are less informed, not from an ignorance point of view, but from we only arranged 1 to 2 funerals in our lifetime, so why would you be the expert? So with those people, we help them understand what they can do, then offer choice, and that's the really key bit. Offer choice and let the client choose what they want, not to force anything in any way, shape or form. No.
So I'm always really interested in company culture, and it's all about people, as you stated. So you have 1,000 colleagues, that's members of your team within your company. How do you connect with those colleagues within the business?
Yes, so 1,000 colleagues in funeral. In the wider business, it's probably the best part of 7,000 colleagues. I think, it's a cooperative, so it might be worth just explaining what a cooperative is. So cooperative's a member-owned business, and what does that mean? It means we're here for our communities. It sounds like a tagline, but the way a cooperative model works is you offer your members, customers and communities products and services. They choose to buy from you, and then the money that you make from that, you invest back into either the business or you give back to the members, colleagues and communities. So that's the virtuous circle. So all the money gets invested to drive better products and services, or to give back to those communities or to those members. For us, it's quite a natural shift to be community based. So the way we do it in funeral, we operate very locally. A cluster level, for want of a better word, but that cluster is a local 5-6 homes with one local leader that's got the autonomy within a loose framework to make all those local decisions. There's a number of reasons why that's important. Funeral can only work on a community basis. It is part of the community. It always has been. So you can only operate a funeral business locally. Those colleagues live locally. They want to be proud of what they do. It's their reputation. And the community will know they're there all the time if they're part of the community and they're a good neighbour. So being a community funeral business as well as a community-focused business is really important to us.
So do you give those clusters you said, which I get totally, so there's a community spirit, do they have their own identity, or do you still lead them with the direction? How does that work? How much autonomy do you give them, I suppose, is that question?
Well, the autonomy comes down to, if we all believe in giving the client what they want. So that's the most important piece of it all. And actually, there's no way you can corporately run that relationship.
Yeah.
I think, as I said at the beginning, I've run other businesses, whether it's a food business, an off-licence business, not so much the pharmacy business, but you can centrally control more of that. Yeah. Whereas in the funeral business, it's the other way around. It's got to be locally led, and they've got to know the most important thing is the support framework that they've got to do the best by their clients.
And that requires you to trust them, and they trust you in order to do their jobs. But you're trusting them to look after the bereaved, isn't it? It's that trust, and that comes down to leadership again. So
yeah, no, absolutely. I think the trust is really key. I think you and recognising and acknowledging what's done. I think the leadership point is really interesting, isn't it? Because as leaders, you can be focusing on the future all the time. What's coming next? What's the next big change? What's the next big thing? I'm looking 5-10 years ahead. But actually, you've got to be present in the now for the colleagues. The colleagues are doing what people want now. So I think from a leadership point of view, it's a balance. There is those other businesses to look after, but the client's here today, and it's their important moment today. So being present and visible is really important from my point of view, from a leadership point of view.
No, thank you. Also, then you've supported our campaign around bereavement education. So why did that resonate so much with you personally, and also the team in which you work with?
Well, the reason we were really aware of it is because of the work you've done, with the pushing you've done to get it to Parliament. And then when you talk to colleagues and clients, it's really important to them. I think from a personal point of view, I lost my father when I was 8. We never spoke about it. He died of an illness, so he was going to die. We never spoke about death coming. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of, so when you look back, I think we never spoke about it, and it was obvious it was coming. Didn't speak about it after the event. I didn't even go to the funeral. You know what I mean? It was like a big miss at that point in time.
Yeah. Regarding the loss of your father when you were 8, you said about the communication was there was none. Was that from a family point of view, or the environments around your family, such as school and like clubs you're involved in?
I think it was probably a bit of everything. I think it was like mid-70s, and it was almost the children with the little ones out of the way.
Yeah.
The school didn't really talk about it. It was quite a high, a hardcore Catholic school, so they were very disciplined. There was just no avenue to talk about it. In fact, there wasn't an avenue to talk about it. There was just no acknowledgement to talk about it. I think you were just there seen to not be heard sort of mentality. Yeah. So you might have been around us, but it was never spoken about.
No, thank you for sharing that, Lee. It's very powerful, and I think there's a lot of people in our position who the communication wasn't there from a wider network.
Yeah.
And it can be so much better than it currently is, and it's still happening.
I think the positive bit about it is if you think about when you get into it, I think we prepare as parents or leaders or teachers or trusted confidence. We spend a lot of time preparing our children and young people for things that may happen, and that's right as well. This may happen. You may want to get this education. You may want this career, but this is something that will happen. So it's almost like you think we should be talking about this because this is inevitable. You will encounter this, and you may encounter this. Yeah. And think the things you're talking about: empathy, connection. You're talking about inclusion. You're talking about support. I mean, they're just great skills as well. So they're just generic skills.
Life.
Yeah. So it's almost like it feels like when we got into it and started really getting under the skin of it all, it just felt like well, absolutely, it's a no-brainer. This is something that we should be supporting. So thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, well, thank you. And again, we've got the white paper being done by a member of your team as well, supporting the campaign. And there's other conversations going on as well. So a big thank you for that.
No, thank you.
So back to the community aspects of what you do, how do you approach community outreach and care within your funeral branches?
So, like I said, the guys look after their own clusters, look after that, and they live and breathe in those communities, like I said, and they stand at the same school gate as the people that also live in those communities. We just encourage. The guys do about 100 community events every month.
Wow.
They're out there. They do whether it's bereavement cafes, coffee mornings, whether it's just going to the local school to talk, whether it's the local knitter natter. You know what I mean? It's anything. They get involved in anything, and the reason it's so varied is because our communities are varied. And that's I think where you get to that. An example of that local leadership. What's happening in your community that you can support to make a difference, and it can be anything, but it's relevant to your community. We've just started. One of the things we're doing as we go through our funeral homes and just refit and refresh them is we're finding community spaces. So spaces the community can use for free. So we've got some interesting buildings. There's a lot of funeral directors in interesting buildings, and space. There's space there that can be had. And I think there's two reasons for that. One is it get the community you're even more part of the community. Yeah. But two, it breaks out to be about funeral directors and funeral businesses. So I've come to this funeral home and I had a really pleasant experience because I was doing my group I had my meeting there. So it's not I only come through the door once or twice a year. Yeah. It's an ongoing. It's not. We're really interested on to the point of the funeral. These are all available after that we want you to participate in, and colleagues are encouraged to recognise anniversaries and get in contact with clients after that and get them to these groups if they need it. So for us, it's key. It's just that way of working. We don't track and measure how many community events. I know they go on. We know how many go on roughly, but they just do it. It's
like continuity is there, but then the word like you coming on to like integration. You're totally part of the communities in which you live and serve. And I know a lot of the guys arranges for you, and they don't do this stuff because they're told to do it. They want to go out and do things for their community. It's like that, isn't it? It's authentic.
Oh yeah, I think one of the things I've learned many things in funeral. It's been my most purposeful career, funeral. But one of the things I learned, particularly with the funeral colleagues, is that it's got to make a difference for the client. If you're not exempling how what we're doing makes a difference for the clients, whether that's direct contact with the client or care for the person that's died, it's why are you doing it? It's probably the first question. But it's a really hard change to enact then. So anything that the colleagues are passionate about, they know it's going to add value to the people they're supporting, is an easy win.
So you've mentioned the clients and how we adapt our services to meet their needs. What changes are you seeing in the way people want to say goodbye to their loved ones and people?
I think personalisation's getting bigger and bigger, and that's great because personalisation is what it's about. It's remembering the person who it was, and I think people are moving away from that formulaic, ritualistic view of funeral, which it still exists and it's still necessary, but the whole the hearse turns up, it's what can we build around that makes that funeral personal to that person, and that's massive, and we focus on a lot of that. I think clients are more informed now as well. They see more, they know more. They can, not demanding is the wrong word, but they ask for more, which is really useful because it helps us get to their personalised funeral.
Informed decisions.
And that's really useful because people come in with this is how I want to remember this person, and then we can just enhance that or make it happen for them. I think unattended is interesting because that's a big change in what people want in funerals, I think.
So we discussed that a lot on the podcast. That's an unattended direct cremation for those listening or watching, and that is when there's no contact at all with your person. So where do you sit with that, or what's your views on the unattended direct cremation?
Well, the first thing to do is acknowledge it exists and it's there, and it's a service that we offer. It's how you offer the service I think is important. I mean, 20% of the funerals are probably unattended now. I think when we look at our funeral plan business, 60% of the funeral plans we sell are unattended. So it's there. The way we do, we just eyes wide open with the client really, and explain the options and explain how we do it. So we do it in I'm not saying a different way, but we've got a way of doing it. So I think, as I mentioned earlier, because we've got the family of businesses, that person who's died is in our care all throughout, our colleagues, our vehicles, our premises, our care facilities, and that for somebody who's trusting the advisor they've gone to, I think it's important to them. So I'm giving you my loved one, and I know you're going to care for them, and there's no third parties involved. So that trust and credibility in that channel. We let people view. We won't. You know, if they want to view, they can. We won't do the.
So there's still connection.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
It's so important, and we don't. There's no shortcut to the journey. That person who's died will go through the front door of the crematorium, will go into the service room. Their name's on the screen. That journey is exactly the same as any other journey. There's just no family there. Our colleagues are there, and it works exactly as that. So. And then the other bit we do is we focus on ways to remember, because I think that's maybe the disjoint in unattended is an understanding piece with some clients, potentially, and they may not know it till afterwards, but we do. So we should be giving them confidence in the journey so they don't regret thinking this is how it happened. We tell them how it's going to happen. They know that journey is the same as if it was attended. Yeah. There is no shortcut. And then we help them, if they want to, identify ways to remember. So they've always got a positive memory of that experience, rather than, I've heard about direct funerals, I think this happened now. That's a problem for me 5 years later. I did everything well, and I've got this to remember by. I've had a really positive experience. So. Yeah,
I think, we've mentioned it a few times now, is so firstly, being proud to offer the service,
absolutely, yeah.
But then giving people the education and knowing what that can look like. It doesn't mean it can be just a clinical
absolutely,
process.
Yeah.
But also there can be connection. There can still be community. Yeah. And actually, we had the SAFE president on yesterday, Ross Hickton, and he spoke about the same thing. His advice was speak to your local funeral director, and that's what we're saying, isn't it? And it's actually, if you don't speak to your local funeral director, we all have a choice.
Yeah.
And that's the key part of this. We all have a choice. But the thing I think we can all agree on is informed decisions.
Absolutely.
Making sure that you own that decision.
Yeah.
And you know what's coming from that choice you make.
Hey guys, thank you for watching the video so far. I hope you're really enjoying it. Please click the thumbs up on the video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, a huge thank you to our sponsors. Their details are found in the video description just below. Thank you so much.
I think it's transparency and choice. That's the point.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the industry can be probably be looked at as a not closed industry, but it's really hard to understand what goes on behind the doors. So the more transparent we are, if we open our community rooms up to the community, they see what it is. So actually, they'll see it. It's there. I understand it more. So
that's good. So next question then. How are you preparing your teams to meet the emotional and logistical needs of the future?
It's a tough one, isn't it? Because I think the first thing to do is acknowledge today needs. So I think I joined funeral 3.5 years ago, 4 years in September. There was definitely a carryover from COVID. COVID was very raw then. I did COVID through pharmacy, and that was difficult, because they were the only healthcare provider open. So our teams, we brought in a campaign called "We've Got You," which is it's a number of things really. There's a third party support. There's wellbeing champions. There's people in our business that will support. Then there's as in funeral colleagues that are upskilled to be first aiders. Then there'll be corporate central support as well. So it's kind of captured everything, and we trialled that in funeral. We worked it through in funeral to get the best answer for funeral. Then we took it across the whole society, because we took it across retail as well, because as you know, retail has its difficulties as well, particularly with shop crime and how that's escalating. So there's definitely a need to support colleagues. And now we've just enhanced that programme for funeral, that it's a self-serve. You can just go to it. We don't know. if you've gone to them. You self-serve, you go to them and you will get counselling and advice and guidance from an independent third party. And you
Wow.
just and so what we think we've got a really good balance of corporate support, local support by people who do the job, third party support that is that's anonymous and trusted, so they can go with that, and no one's judged on anything. I think it's really important to us. I think what we've got to remember is those colleagues, and I know everybody knows this, but I think it's people who don't know funeral don't know it, but if there's 650,000 deaths this year, in every way possible someone can pass, one of our colleagues in the industry is going out to that scene and witnessing that, and then dealing with the family that are there at the time as well, if the family's there, or if not, they're just, they've got to deal with the incident, and that's traumatic.
It's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot.
And then the colleagues at the front of house, for want of a better phrase, have to have 650,000 conversations about how someone died, how it impacted an individual, what they've left behind, what they haven't left behind, the impact it has, and that's quite difficult as well, or very difficult. So we've got to, once you acknowledge that, it becomes we've got to do something about it, because it exists. The future bit is being cognizant of change that comes and understanding the impact on the colleague, and but having the framework in place that they can self-serve and access it, so it just becomes something else to talk about, rather than we have to keep recreating, reinventing the support network. The support network's there. It's just a different topic we've got to be cognizant of.
No, thank you, Lee. That's really interesting. And the work you're doing with We've Got You, I'll be really interested to talk to you more about that, because I think there is a huge gap in the industry for support for funeral operatives, arrangers, conductors across the whole UK. So, and I haven't heard of something like that at that level. So I'll be really interested to learn more about that at a later point, if that's okay.
I think I was listening to one of your previous podcasts. I think it was Scott Munn was talking about, we just say I'm a newcomer to funeral, but
it's we.
But we kind of just we just get over it. It's our job.
Get on with
it's
it.
what we do. Do you know what I mean? And it's kind of, it's your job. Everyone's got a job in what they do, but there's an impact on you personally, and there's some highs and there's some lows, and you just got to acknowledge it and face it. And also, what we never know is what's going to trigger somebody. So sometimes, we think, we've got to focus on this because that's the big traumatic event. Yeah, but to me, it might be the fact I heard a story that reminded me of mine, and that's triggered me. And it could be a really natural, peaceful passing. It's just triggered me. It's not. And I think so. You've just got to. It's almost like with the client, it's got to give choice and acknowledge there's a span. Yeah. And people will be somewhere in that span, and they'll choose what they want to do and how they want to do it.
We're all different.
Yeah, absolutely.
Our requirements, our demands, our expectations, all different.
Absolutely. So if you're too prescriptive about it,
and rigid,
it becomes unuseful.
Yeah.
It makes me feel better because I've got a framework in place for supporting colleagues, blah, blah, but if it's prescriptive, it only makes me feel better. Just make the colleague feel better. So that's the wrong answer.
It's not actually helping.
Absolutely, no.
It's not actually helping. How useful
why
is it?
Why you're doing it? Absolutely.
Don't bother. So. Thank you. I'm really interested to get your views on regulation and how it will affect sort of the larger companies such as yourselves versus smaller companies such as mine. What's your take on that, please?
I think, and I think it resonates with society, doesn't it? I think I've worked for nearly 40 years as an adult, and I've never worked in an unregulated business until I joined funeral. I'm looking down the high street at Bridgenorth today, and every one of those businesses is regulated, and not the funeral director, and it just feels odd. So I think there's an element of, we should want it, we should be chasing for it, and we should embrace it. I think we should lead on it. I think it's fair to say, though, there's been two bits of regulation that have come in.
Yep.
I mean, the CMA, transparency on prices and services. The FCA, transparency on financial services, security of monies. Really big changes. I think the third one is really regulation around care and dignity, and that's almost the most important one.
Yeah.
So that we have got to get after that. I think the difference between a large scale business and a small, and I don't want to say small scale, because the difference between size of operation by volume is exactly that. it's science operation by volume. So if you have to do one of it, I've got to do 170 of it, and it's all scaled and pro rata. There's no extra burden on anybody. I think my watch would be, if we're worried about the cost of regulation, because if you're worried about it now, then you're probably not as close to it as you want. You should be, maybe. You might want to think about that decision now without regulation.
It shouldn't be a threat.
No, it shouldn't. No.
To anyone, really.
No.
We should already be there. That's what we're saying, isn't it?
And I think sometimes, primary purpose for the industry is moving away from myself and Central Co-op, but primary purpose of the industry is to offer a great service to clients and families. And if we hold that true, as an industry, we need the industry to be credible and trusted.
Reassurance.
Absolutely. And there's been a few knocks to it. And those knocks have been highly visible, and they've been, and we can say that a small proportion of this, and it wasn't me, and it's them over there. But to the outsider looking in, it's the industry.
Yeah, we are one.
Absolutely, and I think the public is surprised. Well, they always are, that we're not regulated.
Yeah. Do you think there's a danger that with regulation and who decides the regulation, it could hinder the services we provide? Is that a danger? It's almost like the saying, be careful what you wish for. Is there a part of that, do you think, or is that just me being oversensitive?
I don't know, to be honest. I think there's two things with regulation. I think if the government puts it in, they won't want it to be a massive cost to them. So I know they can be cumbersome and they can be clunky, but they're not going to want it to be complicated, because then they've got to manage it. They've got to create a team to do it. They've got to regulate it. They've got to check it. They've got to do all that. I think the fundamentals of funeral, though, shouldn't make it a costly exercise. It's a very important process, but so when I say this, it's a relatively simple process. It's really important, critical we get it right. And all that, but the actual process is relatively simple.
Yeah, I think you're right.
The moving parts shouldn't cost a lot to be a game.
And actually, you just hit the nail on the head for me. So we interviewed Rachel Bradburn, who's the director of external affairs for NEFD.
Yeah,
and we went into great depth about service, how we measure service. And on reflection, I've been thinking about it since the interview. We can almost overcomplicate it. Like, it is fairly simple, really, when you break it all down. So I think the key part is we don't overcomplicate regulation.
Absolutely, yeah.
Keep it simple.
It's just showing that you're doing 5 things in a certain order in anything. It's and we're a big supporter of it. So anything we can do to support, anything we can do using our resource, using our campaigning function, using our teams to push it forward. We're passionate about getting them in to drive it forward.
Thank you, Lee. Do you see a future where grief support is embedded more directly into funeral services?
Yeah, I think yes. I think it's there now, but probably driven by local activity and how people see it. We do it a lot through signposting, so we see it, but it's left down to individuals. I think as society moves forward, we're more open about talking about stuff now. Yeah. We're more open about talking about how we feel, impact things have on us, how to make it better. We're more open to listen. So I think it will naturally fall into just society in general. I think a good place for it to sit then, when it becomes more formalised, for want of a better word, would be in the funeral industry, and making it part of that journey, but making it a key part of that, another step in that journey that's more formal and consistent.
Yeah.
So I think it naturally fit there because people will want it.
And it's quite interesting. We discussed about the death management journey, and like grief and bereavement isn't on that journey, but it almost like, when is the end of the journey? And currently it's the crematorium or burial authorities. I think there needs to be another step on this. To this,
it's the danger of talking about regulation and process. You can take the people out of the process.
Yes.
The process does become 5 steps, but you've got to pick the 5 steps you want. So the important one is supporting people with grief. That's the biggest one in those 5 steps. So it's kind of, that's the risk of regulation. If you let someone else own it for you, is I'm going to do it like this, and it's about the steps in the physical process and not the steps in the emotional process.
Yeah, thank you, Lee. So what does compassionate leadership look like in the context of the funeral profession, and obviously with your hat on with what you do?
I think I might mess with it. I mean, from a leadership point of view, I think visibility is key. So the teams that are at the front end doing what they do, and as much as I'd say I'm there with them, we're all in it together and all that, they're doing the do, and we've all got a role to play, we've all got a part to play in this funeral business, I suppose. But being visible is key, because then I think being present, so understanding what's happening in the here and now, understanding what the colleagues are going through, understanding the impact change has on them. I think that's all really important. Being accountable, you've got to be accountable as a leader as well. They've got to know that you're not just making a decision and throwing it out there. It sits with me, so I'm fully accountable for all my actions. I think listening. Those people say they listen. You've got to listen, and but the key thing about listening, you've got the colleague's got to see meaningful change afterwards. Otherwise, it's just, again, it's the thing. I can make myself feel better by doing 15 listening groups, but if I do nothing with it, all I'm doing is disengaging a colleague. So what you got to do is drive.
What's the point of this, Lee? Yeah.
Well, it makes me feel better because I can say I've done 15 listening groups. You know what I mean? It's like, so I think you've got to show meaningful change, and then I think you invest your time in the colleagues. So you've got to develop your colleagues. You've got to invest in your business, because when they see you invest in the business, they feel positive and proud. Like I say, develop your colleagues. I think particularly around that local leadership, time and space, you've got to give people. Yeah. If you want them to make decisions and lead well, you've got to give them the time and space to do that, and not be in their space
for
all
them
the
to
time.
be empowered to do the actual job.
And they're the experts.
Yeah.
You know, there's 1,000 experts out there, and I'm privileged to work with them. Is the way I look at it. So I think that's compassionate leadership. And I think if you link back to when we talked about We've Got You, and then making sure there's a genuine framework in place for them to get support how they need to, and that can be direct, third party, all that stuff. And it's up to the guys what they want to do.
The actions speak louder than the words, really.
Yeah.
Not only are you saying you're there, you're actually there's tools there for them as well.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It's got to be purposeful and meaningful.
Yeah.
Don't do it. You're wasting energy.
Yeah.
Got time writing something down and creating a policy. If we're going to just file it away.
Yeah.
Make a difference with it.
I like that. That's good. So, what do you hope that Central England Co-op's legacy will be in the death care sector?
That's a grand question. Legacy's funny, isn't it? I think because legacy can be a pride thing if you're not careful.
Yes, and ego.
Yeah. So I think we've done a lot of research since before I joined and when I joined it to inform all our decisions. So we're like I say, the business, the board, our CEO Debbie, everybody's passionate about the funeral business and how we do it, and we really want to get it right. So we've done loads of research. I was going with clients that we've had, clients that we could have, colleagues. And there's one sentence I remember from one of the sessions right at the beginning, and it was almost like to this listening group. What is it? What would you want to feel? How do you want to feel at the end of it? Not the steps to get there. And the sentence was, I just want to know I've done him proud.
Yeah.
One person said that 3.5 years ago, and it stuck with me and the team all the way through. So I suppose if you wanted a legacy, I just want everybody to be able to say, or there's those clients and families who will say, we did them proud.
Yeah.
And that would be their legacy, not mine. I'd be proud and privileged to facilitate it.
Yeah. You're facilitator.
Yeah. So there's no legacy per se, but people feeling good, as good as they can about what they did.
And then what about you personally? What about your legacy and your future? What is next for Lee Bevan?
So I can't. Not big on legacies per se, but I mean we're at the start of something here. I mean it's 3.5 years in. There's been a load of change. We've come on. We've learned a lot. We've listened a lot. We've done some stuff. There's more to do. I think the industry's changing all the time.
Yeah.
I think we've recently gone down a digital route that we're exploring. So we've kind of got all these things we think we want to do, or we know we want to do. We've got to map that journey out at an appropriate pace for our colleagues and society, actually, and work all that through. So I suppose there's still plenty to do. I think that's really part of the industry and part of that change, to be honest. But with the core bit of, I think I said it after one of the questions, this is my most purposeful role that I've done. I've enjoyed every job I've done since I worked. I mean, I've always enjoyed a job, and I've always got the best out of that job, and I've always got the best I can get out of that job. But this one has a real purpose, and there's real change coming. So why wouldn't you want to be part of that? And why wouldn't you want to make a difference in whatever way you can? So I think I'm in it. I'm in it for the long haul.
You're fully immersed.
Absolutely, yeah.
You're not leaving, Lee.
No, absolutely not. No.
My last question to you is, you've experienced the loss of your dad when you were a child, and you're doing purposeful work, as you say now, most purposeful work that you've ever done, is what you've said. What do you think that he would say about, if you could see his son now doing the work that you're doing, the impact you're making in facilitating leaders all over the areas in which you cover, to help bereaved people, to help young people like you experienced the loss of him? What do you think he'd say?
I'm not sure. It's a tough one because, like I say, Parson was very young and he was ill for a long time as well. So we didn't build a really strong relationship. So I think if I tried that, So I think so. I don't know what I missed. I don't know how we'd feel about. I know what you'd like someone to be proud of you. You'd like them to, and I'm sure he would be, and you'd like them to be encouraging and supportive. I think, but I think when we talked about child bereavement and what you get or you don't get at a young age, I think the bit that's missing is the bit beyond it, because I think the bit I'd know that I'd want to have if I look back is those experiences. Yeah. Whether, I go typical man, fishing, football, whatever it was, and having those experiences to look back on, and then you'd know I think you know how people feel about it then, regardless of what you're doing, because they're with you in your life, and then they know you as an individual and they're proud of you for who you are, and you happen to be in funeral or you happen to be in pharmacy. That's a side issue, but they know you as an individual. So I think he'd just like him to be proud of me as me, to be honest.
No, that's a fantastic answer, and thank you for your honesty today. Thank you for your views, and it's really, I think, helpful to hear from a larger funeral provider to the UK about how you operate and why you operate, how you support, and how actually it's very similar to a small independent funeral business. I think that's really key, that message is out there for people to understand and measure. So,
but it can't be different. I mean, that's the thing. It can't be different. So I think we need to understand why we all think it's different when it can't be. And maybe we've all got to work on that as well.
Yeah, I think we do. But thank you so much for coming in, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, John.
Yeah,
pleasure. Thank you very much.